Red Bull did not fail Max Verstappen once. It failed him twice, at high speed, with the same rear wing problem. In Austria, the wing reportedly failed to close before a fast corner, sending Verstappen into a crash. Then it happened again at Silverstone, where he lost rear downforce and was thrown into the gravel. Verstappen said he was lucky both times because this kind of failure can seriously hurt a driver. And now, Laurent Mekies has admitted Verstappen is right to be angry. But the danger goes far beyond one defective wing. Red Bull has abandoned the design, Verstappen is only 7th in the championship with 91 points, and the team sits 207 points behind Mercedes. Even worse, reports point to a performance clause that could allow Verstappen to leave before his contract ends in 2028. So Red Bull is not just fighting to repair its car. It may be fighting to stop the greatest driver in its modern history from walking away. And what Mekies revealed next proves this crisis is far more serious than anyone expected. Subscribe to the channel. To understand why this crisis could decide Max Verstappen's future, you have to start with the part Red Bull cannot explain away. This was not one random mistake. The same type of rear wing failure reportedly appeared twice in 2 different races at 2 of the fastest and most dangerous moments a driver can face. First came Austria. Verstappen entered the penultimate corner during qualifying, expecting the rear wing to return to its normal position. That wing was supposed to close before the car turned. Instead, it reportedly failed to reattach properly. And in a high-speed corner, that is not a small technical problem. It changes the car instantly. The rear loses downforce. The tires lose support. And the driver can go from complete confidence to almost no control in a fraction of a second. Verstappen crashed. Red Bull accepted responsibility. Laurent Mekies apologized. At that point, the team knew something had gone wrong. But this is where the story becomes much more serious. Because the same failure reportedly returned at Silverstone. Different circuit. Different weekend. Same basic danger. As Verstappen approached Stowe, the wing was again supposed to close for the corner. And once again, the car lost rear downforce at exactly the moment he needed stability. He spun into the gravel. That second incident changed everything. One failure can be called an unusual defect. 2 similar failures become a pattern. And when both happen in high-speed corners, the issue is no longer only about performance. It becomes a question of trust. A driver has to believe the car will respond exactly as expected. When Verstappen enters a fast corner, he is committing before the car has completed the turn. He cannot wait to see whether the wing has closed. He cannot test the grip cautiously. At that speed, hesitation costs lap time. But blind trust can become dangerous when the system has already failed. That is why Verstappen's reaction was so important. He said the failure meant losing a large amount of downforce and spinning off the track. He also made the danger clear. He said a driver can seriously hurt himself in that situation. And then came the line Red Bull could not ignore. He said he had been lucky twice. That changes the emotional weight of the entire story. This is not a driver complaining because the car was slow. This is not frustration over a poor setup. This is Verstappen saying the same problem placed him in danger on 2 separate occasions. And Mekies did not dismiss him. He admitted Verstappen was right not to be happy. He described it as deeply unpleasant for a driver to be let down in high-speed corners at 2 consecutive rounds. That admission matters. Because Mekies was not defending the car. He was acknowledging that Red Bull had broken the most important agreement between a driver and a team. The driver takes the risk. The team must give him a machine he can trust. Verstappen accepts that Formula 1 is dangerous. Every driver does. But there is a difference between the normal danger of racing and a preventable technical failure that appears twice. One is part of competition. The other feels like betrayal. And once that trust is damaged, every future corner feels different. Imagine driving at extreme speed, knowing the system behind you has already failed twice. You reach the same type of corner. You press the brake. You turn the wheel. And somewhere in the back of your mind, one question appears. Will it close this time? That thought may last less than a second. But at Formula 1 speed, less than a second is enough to change everything. This is why Red Bull's decision after Silverstone was so revealing. The team did not make a small adjustment. It reportedly abandoned the problematic rear wing concept ahead of the Belgian Grand Prix. The newer design was removed. Red Bull returned to an older, more conventional version used before Miami. That was a major reversal. A wing had been introduced to improve straight-line speed by reducing drag. The idea was simple. Open the wing on the straight. Reduce resistance. Then close it before the corner so the car regains downforce. But the system only works if that final movement happens perfectly. Every time. Without delay. Without hesitation. Without failure. Because when the wing remains open as the driver turns, the rear of the car loses the aerodynamic force holding it to the track. Think of it like running across ice while someone suddenly removes the grip from your shoes. One moment, you trust your feet. The next, the support disappears. At Formula 1 speed, the consequences are immediate. Red Bull's design reportedly created a larger opening than the Ferrari-inspired concept it followed. That may have offered a straight-line advantage, but it also appears to have created greater risk if the wing did not close completely. And that is the trade Red Bull got wrong. The team chased speed. It found danger. The upgrade was supposed to help Verstappen attack. Instead, it reportedly caused 2 incidents that could have ended far worse. That is why the return to the old wing was not just a technical decision. It was an admission. Red Bull no longer trusted the new system. And if the team itself could no longer trust it, how was Verstappen supposed to? But the wing failure was only one part of the pressure building around him. Earlier in the season, Verstappen retired from the Monaco Grand Prix because of a power unit failure. Red Bull then prepared a new engine for Barcelona. So, within the same campaign, Verstappen had already suffered a major reliability problem before the rear wing crisis became impossible to ignore. The pattern was becoming uncomfortable. An engine failure. A qualifying crash. Another high-speed loss of control. And a car with persistent handling problems that Red Bull was still struggling to solve. Mekies admitted the team was searching for a solution that would fix those problems while also producing lap time. That final part matters. Because fixing the car is easy if Red Bull is willing to make it slower. The real challenge is creating stability without sacrificing performance. And that is where the pressure becomes brutal. Red Bull cannot simply choose safety and accept losing speed. It also cannot chase speed with a system Verstappen no longer trusts. The team must find both. Stability and performance. Reliability and aggression. A car that is safe enough to trust but fast enough to win. That is the standard Verstappen demands. And it is the standard Red Bull used to meet. But now, the numbers tell a very different story. After the Belgian Grand Prix, Verstappen reportedly sat 7th in the Drivers' Championship with 91 points. Championship leader Kimi Antonelli had 204. Red Bull was also 207 points behind Mercedes in the constructor standings. That is not a small gap. That is a competitive collapse compared with the level Verstappen expects. And this is where the technical failures become connected to his future. Because reports point to a performance-based clause in Verstappen's contract. His deal may run until 2028, but the reported clause could allow him to leave if he is not inside the top 2 in the driver's standings by the summer break. According to the source, he is nowhere near that position. That means every failure carries 2 consequences. Red Bull loses points. And Verstappen gains another reason to question whether staying is still the right decision. The wing problem did not only damage 2 race weekends, it may have moved Verstappen closer to a contractual escape route. And that is why Mekies' admission feels like a bombshell. He is not only accepting that the driver is angry, he is accepting that Red Bull gave him a reason to be angry. Twice. In dangerous corners. During a season when the team is already far behind. That combination is what places Red Bull in real danger. Because Verstappen does not need one dramatic argument to leave. He only needs enough evidence that the project is moving in the wrong direction. An unreliable power unit becomes evidence. A defective wing becomes evidence. A large championship deficit becomes evidence. And a car that cannot be fixed without becoming slower becomes evidence. Each problem creates another doubt. Each doubt weakens trust. And once trust disappears, a long contract can stop feeling permanent. But there is an even deeper problem for Red Bull. If Verstappen decides the team can no longer protect him or give him a winning car, another team does not simply gain a world-class driver. Red Bull loses the person who has been exposing the true potential of its machinery. And without Verstappen, the team may discover that its biggest problem was never the wing alone. It was how much one driver had been hiding everything else. And that is where Red Bull's situation becomes even more dangerous. Because Verstappen is not only the driver producing the results, He is the reference Red Bull uses to understand the car. When Verstappen says the rear is unstable, engineers listen. When he says the balance is wrong, the team knows the problem is serious. When he extracts a lap that appears impossible, Red Bull learns how much performance still exists inside the machine. Remove that reference, and the team does not simply lose speed. It loses clarity. That matters because the Red Bull described in the source is already struggling to separate one problem from another. The rear wing failed in Austria. It failed again at Silverstone. The power unit ended Verstappen's Monaco Grand Prix. The car continued to suffer handling problems, and Mekies admitted that finding a simple fix was not enough. The solution also had to make the car faster. That admission reveals the trap Red Bull is facing. The team may know how to make the car easier to drive, but if that change costs lap time, the result is not a true solution. It is only a different weakness. Imagine a door that keeps getting stuck. You can remove part of the frame and make it open more easily. But now the door no longer closes properly. One problem disappears. Another takes its place. That is what Red Bull must avoid. The team cannot fix instability by sacrificing speed. It cannot protect reliability by giving away too much performance. And it cannot ask Verstappen to remain patient while the championship moves further away. Because patience becomes much harder when the standings begin confirming the worst fears. After the Belgian Grand Prix, Verstappen reportedly had 91 points. Kimi Antonelli had 204. Lewis Hamilton had 159. George Russell had 154. Charles Leclerc had 126. Verstappen was 7th. Not 2nd. Not close to the championship lead. 7th? And that position carries far more weight than it normally would. The source refers to Paddock reporting about a performance-based clause in Verstappen's contract. His Red Bull deal may run until 2028. But the reported clause could allow him to leave if he is not inside the top 2 in the driver's standings by the summer break. The source does not provide the full contract language. It does not confirm that Verstappen has decided to activate anything, but it makes one point impossible to ignore. His current position is nowhere near the reported threshold. That means Red Bull may no longer control the situation through the contract alone. Performance may control it. And Red Bull's performance is creating the very opening the team cannot afford to give him. This is why every technical failure now feels larger. A broken wing is not only a broken wing. It costs confidence. It costs points. It strengthens the argument that Verstappen should examine his options. A power unit retirement is not only one lost race. It becomes another example of the team failing to deliver the reliability a championship campaign requires. A difficult car is not only uncomfortable to drive, it becomes evidence that Red Bull may not be able to solve its deeper problems quickly enough. The danger builds through accumulation. One issue can be forgiven. Two create concern. Several begin forming a pattern. And patterns change careers. Verstappen does not need to believe Red Bull is permanently finished. He only needs to believe another team can give him a better chance during the most important years of his career. That is a much lower threshold. And rival teams understand it.